So friends, let's, for those who like, we can recite the Namo Tassa and the three refuges. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddhang Saranang Gacchami, Dhammang Saranang Gacchami, Sanghang Saranang Gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami, Dutiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami, Tatiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami, Tatiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. So welcome friends to this Wednesday evening Sutta study session, and we're continuing our look at the Mahasatipatthana Sutta. Of course, so far in our going over this sutta, we see that it's almost identical to the sort of regular or shorter version of the Satipatthana Sutta, which is found in the Majjhima Nikaya. And the differences between these two suttas will become evident actually when we, more next week, when we get into the Dhammanupassana, and actually in the next few weeks, especially when we're covering the Four Noble Truths. That's where the sutra elaborates much more than what you find in the Satipatthana Sutta. So anyway, this evening we are going to go over the Chittanupassana, or the third foundation of mindfulness. So far we've gone over the section on the body. We spent a few weeks on that. Last week we covered the section on feelings. Now, you know, the Satipatthana Sutta, the way it is structured, the contemplation of the body, contemplation of feelings, contemplation of mind states, and then contemplation of Dhamma, it is structured in this way because each one is a kind of a stepping stone to reach the next level. And that also basically covers is an outline of the five aggregates that we'll talk more about later. So the section on the contemplation of the mind, sometimes it's called contemplation of mind states. So based on the feelings, the first thing that we experience through the senses is a vibration and a feeling. And then we identify what these feelings are, and then these feelings in turn produce mental states. That means they affect the mind to produce various mental states. So the contemplation of the mind states is simply to identify these mind states. So I'm just going to briefly read this description of the contemplation. And how amongst does a monk abide contemplating mind as mind, or you could say mind states as mind states. And here a person or a monk knows a lustful mind as a mind with lust. Or he knows a mind that is free from lust as being free from lust. He understands a mind with hatred as having a hatred, and he understands a mind that is free from hatred as a mind that's free from hatred. And he understands a deluded mind as deluded, an undiluted mind as undiluted, a contracted mind as contracted. He understands a distracted mind as distracted, a developed mind, an undeveloped mind, a surpassed mind, an unsurpassed mind, a concentrated mind, or a liberated mind. So these mental states are kind of just the quality of that particular mental state. Let's say if a monk is, or in any person, it's not only a monk, of course, it mentions monk in the sutta, but of course it applies to any meditator. So let's say you're meditating, let's say we were trying to focus on your breathing, and or even you were contemplating the body, but all of a sudden the mind starts to get some sensual desire. So a lustful mind means any type of sensual desire. And so this is very similar also to the hindrance of sensual desire. So this contemplation of mind is very similar to the contemplation of the 5 hindrances that actually we're going to be going over next week too, as part of the mental objects. So anyway, you simply identify, if you catch yourself having some desire for some sensual object, especially of course with in terms of the sexual desire or the desire for human beings and or other the strong type of desires. So you understand, this mind has sensual desire in it, because you understand the lure of the sensual desire, how the mind gets attracted to that object. Or, of course, if you're meditating and you're doing strong concentration, you're not necessarily saying, oh, my mind is free from sensual desire now. You're not trying to identify that the mind is free from all these states all the time. But if you had been preoccupied with a sensual desire, and then shortly later the mind got concentrated, then you can then understand, now the mind is free from sensual desire. And you can notice the difference between that, where the mind without the sensual desire is much more calm and concentrated. So these first categories of the mind states, the lustful mind is synonymous with sensual desire, the hindrance of sensual desire. The mind with hate is similar to the sensual desire of ill will. The mind has ill will. So ill will is that, kind of beginning of hatred, but it's a quality of hatred. That means not liking. So ill will. So this hating mind is very similar to the hindrance of ill will. And the deluded mind is a mind of deluded. That means you're entertaining some false views, or the mind is dominated by thoughts of I, me, and mine, or it's entertaining some other, delusions, like you're thinking you are somebody that you're not, or various types of deluded theories, as opposed to an undiluted mind. So when you're contemplating wisdom and the mind is very clear, when you have a good mindfulness, and you have developed a level of concentration and the mind has gotten clarity, then you can understand, now the mind is undiluted. As before, you're taking the body to be me and mine and myself, and you get some detachment to it and develop some understanding. Then you identify, now the mind is undiluted. And then this next state, a contracted mind. A contracted mind, or sometimes called a shrunken mind, means a mind that's, dominated by, let's say, sloth and torpor. That means the consciousness has shrunk or contracted around into a dark state in which there's not much awareness. So that's called a contracted mind. So it's similar to sloth and torpor. The mind is just very dull and not very awake, not aware of many things going on around it. So the contracted mind is similar to sloth and torpor. Then the next state that's mentioned is a distracted mind. And that is similar to the restlessness and worry. The mind is distracted. That means it's being consumed by some kind of worry or restlessness and or wanting, and just distracted basically from your meditation. The mind is kind of jumping around, but usually it's because of some sort of just not being concentrated and associated with restlessness and worrying about things. So that's what distracts you. You get distracted because you think, oh my gosh, I got to do this tomorrow, and this guy this, and or worrying about other problems that you might have. So you just simply, the mind is distracted now. Or at other times you notice the mind is undistracted now. And then the next state that's mentioned is a developed mind. And this means you've reached some degree of concentration and or insight. So you've developed your mindfulness and your concentration to whether you are starting to experience some of the jhana factors, for example, or you're getting some good insights into impermanence or nor self. That means the mind has weakened the hindrances and it's developed in that sense. So it could be having reached any of the levels of jhana or any of the insight knowledges. And when the mind is not in any of those states, that's considered an undeveloped mind. That means that in the ordinary types of mind of people who have not developed their mind in some kind of meditation and of detachment from the worldly states going on. Then a surpassed mind is surpassed. That means it's similar to the undeveloped mind, that it's surpassed by many other wholesome states. That means there's much work to be done because to achieve some, to become an unsurpassed mind. So the next one is a mind, unsurpassed mind. That means you've developed a high degree of concentration. It's unsurpassed by most of your ordinary other types of mental states. And so it's also similar to a concentrated mind. It's concentrated or unconcentrated. And the liberated mind is liberated, or an unliberated mind is unliberated. So these states are actually quite similar. Being a developed mind, an unsurpassed mind, a concentrated mind, or a liberated mind, that they are all referred to similar states of having attained some degree of jhana, or the hindrances being weakened, and experiencing some of the jhana factors, whether it's piti, sukha, or the insight knowledges. So those are fairly synonymous. And like a liberated mind, or unliberated mind could also be associated with doubts. If the mind is consumed by a lot of doubts, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, or, maybe I should change my meditation subject, or, is my teacher really know what he's talking about, or, kind of these kind of doubts. That means the mind is not free from the doubts. So that could be also identified as an unliberated mind. So it's just being able to identify these states. And then the insight, the next section on that is, once one has identified these various states of mind. Now, of course, all your various thoughts that you might have might be occurring, and they would be contained within one of these kind of states. Like a distracted mind, you could be having lots of various types of thoughts. So there's individual various thoughts going on, which would be under the umbrella of a distracted mind, or deluded mind, for example. So, but you're not necessarily contemplating those particular type of thoughts, but you're identifying the overall mental state that you're in. And one abides contemplating the mind internally, and contemplating the mind is the mind externally, or both internally and externally. So again, sort of like with the feelings, internally means you're recognizing these mental states when they're coming up within you, whether it's in meditation or it's in your daily life during the day, when you notice that you're entertaining some lustful thoughts, for example, being able to identify, the mind has lust in it now. And the purpose of identifying it is hopefully that you would then apply the right effort to let go of that lustful thought, and to perhaps contemplate the opposite of that, seeing the nature of impermanence, or the impure aspect of that lustful object. Or if the mind had hate in it, hopefully then to apply the antidote of metta, for example, or compassion. So anyway, you identify these mental states as they're happening in you. Then external means you see them in other people. Let's say you see a person, talking or acting in, with desirous ways, evidently having a lot of sensual desire, or, then you can, logically assume that this person has a lustful mind or a hateful mind. So the reason why we identify them also externally, because it helps us to remind us of ourselves, that are we yet free from those? We oftentimes accuse other people, don't we? We say, oh, look at that person, they have a lot of hatred. And then, well, am I myself free from hatred? Or look at that other person, they have all this sensual desire. But then we should reflect back and see if we ourselves still have that too. So, and the way you can identify other people externally, others having it, because you yourself also have had these same types of mental states in the past, or maybe you still do, until one has reached, the level of at least a once returner. One still can have lust and desire, or even a Sotapanna can have that. So therefore, so it's just a way that it helps you to contemplate the Dhamma all the time. So you see it in yourself, you see it in others, you see it in both yourself and others. And then you contemplate the arising phenomena in these mental states. How do these mental states occur? And because most of these mind states are connected with the 5 hindrances, and we've already talked in other Dhamma talks, and when we covered the Satipatthana Sutta on the 5 hindrances, we covered that. And there's the wonderful book by Venerable Nyona Ponika Mahatero, The Conquest of the 5 Hindrances and Their Conquest, or the 5 Hindrances and Their Conquest. And somebody had put that link to where one can find that little pamphlet. It's a Wheel publication pamphlet. It's probably one of the best booklets for describing the 5 hindrances and the antidotes, and what feeds the hindrances and the antidotes to the hindrances. So the arising phenomena in these mental states, how do they arise? Well, they arise through contact, they arise through feeling, they arise through memory, and they arise because of our habits of having cultivated these in the past. That's the origination factors in them. And what is the dissolution factors in them? When you're able to apply the hindrances and to apply the antidotes, and to develop the opposite of those, knowing how do they cease, by stop focusing on the marks of beauty, for example, by cultivating metta to overcome ill will, for example, for cultivating wisdom and insights to overcome delusions and doubts, and so on. So it's having this understanding. And then we come to the part, or else. That means after, if you, don't care to contemplate, or if you sort of have already contemplated and understood these things, you don't necessarily have to go on contemplating the origination and the dissolution factors in these. If you've already developed that understanding and developed the mindfulness, not to be trapped in those states, or else the knowledge that mental states exist. These mental states are there, but you remain detached, and you use these mental states for the extent of developing knowledge and awareness. So you don't use these mental states to increase them, increase their intensity, but you use them for contemplating to gain more knowledge and awareness about these mental states and how to skillfully deal with them so that they don't hinder your meditation, and so you can make progress. And the person abides detached, not grasping at any thing in the world. Now, this entails already a high degree of development. And he abides detached, not grasping at anything in the world of any of the 5 aggregates. So that means you've already have reached probably a degree of jhanic concentration and awareness, or insights, where the mind is no longer identifying or attaching to any of the feeling, the body, the feelings, the mental states. and you just try to abide in that present moment awareness. That abiding detached, not grasping at anything in the world, basically means the mind being grounded and centered in the present moment awareness, and being aware of the flow of impermanence of the senses and the aggregates that are just arising and passing away, but the mind is stabilized and connected to that present moment awareness. It's not being grossly affected by any of, or dragged away by any of those feelings or mental states. So that's how a person abides, contemplating the mind as the mind. So again, this section on contemplation of the mind, and the next section that we're going to go into more next week, although I want to mention it because it's very similar to the 5 hindrances. So next week we're going to be starting the large section on Dhammanupassana. And Dhammanupassana is contemplation of mental objects. So it's very similar. Mental objects or states of mind, sense, desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry. These are doubts. These are the specific 5 hindrances. And they're also objects of the mind because you can observe them. You can, observe the characteristics and how these hindrances affect our mind. So if you've already been contemplating the mind, doing the Chittanupassana, then effectively you've been working on practicing to recognizing the hindrances also, although the 5 hindrances are specifically about those 5 particular types of mental states. But those, when the mind is plagued by the 5 hindrances, that can be subsumed under the contracted mind, the shrunken mind, the distracted mind, the deluded mind. That when the mind is dominated by the 5 hindrances, it's also exhibiting those other categories of the mind too. But so I would suggest that people reread. Maybe one of you out there, I know there's a couple of people out there who probably have at the tip of their fingers the link to that book, The 5 Hindrances and Their Conquest by Venerable Nyanaponika Thera. How I see, yes, there it is. So I would recommend that you all reread that, because really, that's one of the best books that has it's everything is in there connected with the 5 hindrances, their characteristics, what feeds them, what helps to weaken them, their antidotes, and so on. It's really because Vinamanyana Ponika was a scholar, and he had knowledge of all of the sutras, and so he gathered information from so many different sutras and put it all together in this wonderful book. So that when we come next week, we don't have to spend a whole lot of time going over the 5 hindrances again, because we've already gone over it many times already. Okay, but now if anybody has any questions on how to contemplate these mental states, it's actually, quite a short section. Then, I don't know if there's any chat. Is there any more chat questions in there? I don't think so. What is that one? So if anybody now would like to just unmute yourself, and if you have a question about how to deal with any of these mental states or some clarity on them, then you could ask a question, and I might try to clarify something about them.
So, Bhante, somewhere I read like there are like almost 50 mental states. So basically, they are like branches of this majors.
Those are the chaitasikas, the mental factors. 52. I think the 52 mental factors, which would include, yes, some of them, like the hindrances specifically, and then joy and all the unwholesome and the wholesome chaitasikas. Now, chaitasika is a term from Abhidhamma, and so you have a mental state or a state of consciousness, which, let's say, you could say, try to imagine like a bubble, right? Okay, if you have a bubble. So that would be the consciousness itself, but consciousness itself is transparent and doesn't do anything without the chaitasikas. So the chaitasikas are the little worker ants. So they're what color or determine what kind of a mental state that is, such as a chaitasika of dosa, hatred, chaitasika of desire, chaitasika of any of those hindrances, or the chaitasika, the good ones like piti and sukha, these mental factors that determine the quality of that state of mind. So but these 52 mental states are enumerated more in the Visuddhimagga and in the Abhidhamma. So in the suttas, sometimes the Buddha had mentioned these, states of mind and so on, but didn't go into sometimes the expanded detail, and that's the purpose of the commentaries and also of the Abhidhamma and so on, that goes into much more detailed analysis of these mental states and states of consciousness and so on. But it can be very, very, very detailed, and sometimes it can make a person's head swim almost, the complex detail. Is there another question? Who's asking the question? Who? Bhaskar? Oh. Is each of these mental states composite of multiple types of thoughts? We have to notice multiple thoughts to access and recognize what mental state the mind is in. Yeah, well, I think I did mention just a few minutes ago that, yes, these mental states have thoughts in them. So there can be multiple thoughts in the mental state. Let's say if you're starting to think of desire, and you think of, you remember one person's body, and there's some desire comes in you, and then that triggers off within somebody else's body or something else. So there might be multiple thoughts going on. This mental state might be lasting several minutes even before you catch yourself. And then you realize, oh, my mind is consumed by lustful desire. So it might have taken you that long to notice it. But yeah, there's multiple thoughts can be within that mental state. You could catch yourself just, criticizing this person, being angry at that person, this other person, so there's various thoughts about, about the hatred or ill will that's in the mind. So, you could just notice one thought and determine that mental state, or you could notice multiple thoughts. Usually you'll recognize it pretty quickly. Once you get familiar, of course, somebody who's not familiar with meditation in the Dhamma, then they're not going to be able to recognize the state because they've never stopped and thought about it that way. Some people think they're not deluded. They think they're the smartest person in the world, but according to Dhamma, they're deluded, right? So it's only a person who is familiar with meditation and familiar with their own mind will be able to notice quite quickly what sort of once you've snapped out of your being lost in it and become mindful, oh, yes, and reflect on it, then you know, oh, yes, my mind was consumed by this, or I had a contracted state of mind. Or if your mind is just all caught up in sloth and torpor, then it's easy to know your mind is contracted or shrunken. Or you just maybe contracted around yourself, just consumed with I and me and your ego. That's also a contracted state of mind. Okay. So any other questions? I'm sure many of you, because most of you are, have been studying these things for quite a long time, so you're probably already quite familiar with the sections on the Satipatthana Sutta. But as I mentioned before, all of these things we've already gone over in the shorter version of the Satipatthana Sutta, but that's only going to become evident when we get into the section on the Four Noble Truths, because that's where the elaboration of the cause of suffering and of the Noble Eightfold Path are enumerated or explained in much more detail. Okay, so if there's no more questions, then we can take a short break, come back and do a few yoga stretches, and then sit down and see if we can notice some of these mental states in ourselves, okay? Okay, see you back in a few minutes. Friends, so let's try to stand straight. Just feel your feet pressing the floor. Gently close your eyes. Just feel the arms and hands hanging at the shoulders. Relax the shoulders. Feel the clothing touching the skin on different places. Feel your head balanced on top of the neck. Feel the eyes and the sockets. Kind of just rest the attention there behind the eyes, feeling the eyes and being able to kind of just feel the outline of the standing body. And then begin some deep, slow breathing. If you know the three-part breathing, drawing the air from the lower lung up through the middle to the top of the chest, the upper lungs, feel that expansion, hold the air in the lungs 2 or 3 seconds, then slowly breathe out. Try to feel the last bit of air go out of the lungs. And then the next in-breath. Just try to take 5 or 6 deep, slow breaths like that, cultivating this mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now, standing here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. We coordinate these movements with that same deep, slow breathing. So you can open the eyes and observe leading you through this if you haven't seen it before. So on the next in-breath, raise your arms over the head, interlock the fingers, turn the palms up, straighten the arms, and stretch your head back. Look up at the back of your hands. Arch the back a little bit. On the out-breath, lower the hands to touch the head. Again, in-breath, palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back. Out-breath, touch the top of the head. The third time, hold that upward stretch longer, or bend back a little bit. Release the fingers, the out-breath, arms back to the side. Just close the eyes, relax. Just feel the feet pressing the floor. Feel the hands and arms hanging at the side. Feel the clothing touching the skin on different places. Feel the head balanced on top. Just remember standing, the present moment of the body, here and now. Just letting go of your thoughts, just keeping the mind grounded, connected to the body, and the breathing. So on the next in breath, push up on the toes and raise the arms over the head in this way, facing the hands toward each other and stretch up. Out breath, come back down, arms to the side, heels to the floor. Again, in breath up, use the breath to help lift up the body. Stretch. Out. In. Out. Relax. Just keep feeling the body. Keeping the mind grounded in the body helps to feel and observe, let go of your thoughts and mental states. And next we'll do the knee bending. On the in-breath, lift up on the toes again and the arms up front for balance. On the out-breath, bend the knees and lower down into the squatting position if you can. The in-breath, push up, all the way up on the toes. Again, out-breath. Feel the strength of the leg muscles, lowering and lifting the body. In-breath. Out. In. The out-breath, relax. Just feel the increased heart beating, whether pulsation, or any little aches or pains. Remember standing. Then we'll do side bending using both arms on an in-breath, raise both arms over the head. You keep the fingers and the arms straight close to your head. On the out-breath, bend over your right side. You keep the arms parallel to each other like railroad tracks. In-breath, lift up. Then the left side out breath. In. Again to the right, out breath. In. Out. And the out breath, lower the arms. Relax. Keep feeling the body. Don't let the mind wander into other various mental states. Feel the feet pressing the floor, the arms at the sides. the head on top. Okay, now spread the feet apart, at least 3 feet. And hold the hands together at the chest. Breathe in, hands over the head. The out breath, hands to the chest and bend the knees, lower down. Try to keep the back upright, feet flat on the floor. In breath all the way up. Out. In. Out. The out breath. Just relax. Just close the eyes. And just feel the whole body, subtle vibration. If you have a good awareness of the body and not too many wandering thoughts, you could consider that a developed mind. The mind is free from sensual desire or hatred. Just understand that. Mind is contented in the body, in the here and now. And now we'll do twisting from side to side, holding the arms out. And breathe in. On the out breath, look to the right and twist to the right, keeping your eyes focused on the hand going backwards. On the in breath, come back to the front. Let the feet turn with the body and then twist to the other side, out breath. In breath, front. Begin to the right, out breath. In, out. In, once more to each side. And relax. Feel each foot spread apart, pressing the floor. Now we're going to do the alternate toe touching. Hold the arms out to the side. And on an out breath, we want to bring the left arm across and down to try to touch your right leg, or lower down, even if you can reach down by the ankle or foot. And then look up at your other hand over the head. And then carefully lift back up on the in-breath. Don't lose the balance. Bring the arms out to the side, and then the other side on the out-breath, the right hand to the left leg or foot. Look up at the other hand over the head. In-breath, come up. And just continue alternating like that, coordinating it with the breathing, out-breath. In. Out. In. On the third time, you can try to hold that position a little longer on each side. Come up. And then the other side. Come up. Relax. Just feel all those life force vibrations, sensations. Four element vibrations in the body. Which essentially is just the vibrations of the cells, molecules, atoms, vibrating, interacting, producing all these various type of bodily sensations. Just try to feel that. If you can feel that, then you have a concentrated mind. Okay, now bring the feet back together. One last exercise. The backward and forward bending. It's a little bit powerful exercise. You have to be a little careful with it, especially with the back bend, not to bend back too far. The first time, especially when you lift up from a back bend, there could be a rush of energy or feeling like you're going to get dizzy or black out. So just be careful not to bend back too far the first time. So on an in-breath, raise the arms up and gradually open them out to the side as you bend backwards. Keep your eyes open. Look up at the ceiling. And carefully lift up, keeping the arms out at the side And on the out breath, lower the arms and hands down towards the floor. See if you can touch the floor, the feet, keeping the legs straight. Let the bones in the lower spine stretch out. And begin standing up, turn the palms outward again, lift the arms up and outward to the side as you bend back. Lift up, keeping the arms out, out breath. Begin standing up, turn the palms out, in breath, open up the arms. Lift up, out breath. Now as you come up this time, bring the hands together at the chest. And back to the sides on the out breath. Relax. And just feel the whole body vibrating, pulsating, with activated life force. Just try to feel or imagine that activated life force is permeating as a healing energy, permeating, suffusing all the cells and tissues of the body, mind, nervous system, just allowing the awareness to rest in the present moment. And keep your mind in the present moment without getting lost in any thoughts. That's a developed mind. Okay, so go ahead and come back to our seats, get ready for the sitting meditation. Okay, friends, just try to sit straight. Just feel the body grounded to the floor. Just try to feel where the buttocks press the seat. Feel that contact, earth element vibration, solid feeling of the body pressing the floor. And mentally feel how the legs are bent underneath, and feel the feet or toes pressing the floor. Again, the earth element vibration. And moving the awareness up to feel the hands and fingers touching. When they touch together or touch your legs. Try to feel the outline of your thumbs or fingers. And feel the weight of the arms hanging from the shoulders. Relax the shoulders. Feel where the clothing touches the skin of the shoulders or arms or chest. And feel the head balanced on top. And keep the chin lifted up level to the floor. Just feel your sensations on the face. So feel or imagine the skin stretched over the face. There's different sensations. Especially try to feel your lips touching together. Sensation of dryness or moistness in the lip. Feel the tongue laying in the mouth, where the tongue may touch some teeth. And then feel the eyes resting in the socket, and the eyelids stretched over the eyeballs. Try to feel any subtle eye movement. You might see some color, light, or patterns in or behind the eyes. And just rest the attention there behind the eyes. Just turn on that camera of awareness. Mental awareness is like the mind's own camera. We can kind of feel the sensations of the body. So just sort of the feeling of just looking inside the head, all the different sensations. You can feel the forehead, the nose, the eyes, the lip, tongue in the mouth. Of course, all these are mental perceptions. The sensations are there, but then the mind remembers the sensations, gives them a name or label, perception, such as my lips, my nose, my eyes. Now try to feel the outline of the whole body, sort of enlarge or open up the wider angle lens of the mental camera to feel the outline of the body, head on top, arms and hands in the middle, buttocks and feet below. Just try to hold that larger frame of the sitting body in the mind's eye. And then begin some deep, slow breathing, like we were doing in the yoga session. Three-part breathing, drawing the air from the lower lung up to the top of the chest. To feel that expansion, hold the air in the lungs a few seconds. And feeling the relaxing contractions of the out breath. To feel the last bit of air go out of the lungs. And then the next in-breath. Just try to take several more deep, slow breaths like that. Cultivating this basic mindfulness. And breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now let's try to count our breaths from 1 to 10, try to gain a more continuous concentration. So with the next expanding in breath, mentally count 1. With the contracting out breath, so count 1. Next in breath 2. Out breath 2. In breath 3. Out breath 3. In breath 4. Out breath 4. In breath 5. Out breath 5. In breath 6. Out breath 6. In breath 7. Out breath 7. In breath 8. Out breath 8. In breath 9. Out breath 9. In breath 10. Out breath 10. Now discontinue the counting. Discontinue any deeper controlled breathing. Stay focused in the same area in the center of the body to feel the short, uncontrolled rhythm of the breathing. It's like turning up the power of the microscope. Try to notice the 4 phases of the breath cycle. The expanding in-breath and the brief pause. The contracting out-breath and the brief pause. Just knowing when the breath is coming in and knowing when the breath is going out. You know it by feeling it. With focused attention. And try to notice how each breath is different. Sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. Sometimes the in-breath is longer than the out-breath, or the out-breath is longer than the in-breath. The pauses between the breaths are sometimes longer or shorter. It's called mindfulness of breathing. Try to be like a scientist sitting in the laboratory. This breathing body is the laboratory for the meditator. The body regulates its own breathing depending on its need for oxygen. The body is sitting perfectly still. There's not too many thoughts or mental activity, and the need for oxygen is less. The breathing might become very slow or faint. If the mind gets excited or you move about, the breath becomes more quick and shallow. But even while observing the breath, you must be alert for thoughts and other mental states arising in the mind. Or if the mind is concentrated, know it as a concentrated mind. If the mind is distracted by thoughts, other distractions, know it as a distracted mind. Actually, you practice mindfulness of the breathing and body, and mindfulness of the feelings in mind. You practice them all at the same time because they're all happening right there in the awareness. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Various sensations come and go. Mental states come and go. Painful, pleasant feelings come and go. They're all coming and going through this breathing body awareness. That's why mindfulness of breathing in the body comes first. So you become grounded and centered in the body, then you naturally become aware of the various feelings and mental state. Identify your mental state. You're concentrated or distracted, sleepy or awake. with desires or content with the present moment. Why do these states arise? How do they arise? How do they disappear or cease? After contemplating the body, the feelings, the mental states, or else just simply this body and mind exists just to the extent necessary for gaining knowledge and awareness. Remaining detached and aloof from all of the sensory impingements coming through the senses or the mind. Staying connected to that subtle vibration of present moment awareness. It's the deeper vibration of consciousness. Understanding the impermanence and the no self nature of all these five aggregates. It's become like an empty house with nobody home to answer the call, knocking on the doors and windows. That sensitive microphone deep inside is the present moment awareness that knows yet doesn't know in particular. what perception arises from that vibration. Sabbe sankhara anicchati. Sabbe sankhara dukkati. Sabbe dhamma anattati. Yada panyaya pasati. Atane bindati dukkhi. Isamago visuddhiya. All conditioned things, the five aggregates of this body, mind, and world are impermanent. They arise only to last briefly and then vanish. And all these impermanent things, when clung to with ignorance, bring suffering. And all the conditioned dhammas, as well as the unconditioned deathless state, without any owner or controller. They're not me, mine, or myself. They're not self. When one understands these three characteristics with the eye of wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the path to purity, to freedom. And thus spoke the Buddha. Okay, now let's spend the last few minutes of the meditation cultivating thought, feelings of friendliness, metta toward ourselves and all other beings. Just begin taking a few more deep, slow breaths. As you hold the breath in the lungs, sort of imagine and feel that oxygenated blood being like the metta going to your cells of the body to charge them up with awareness and happiness. And on the out breath, feel that relaxing, contracting sensation of the mind in the present moment. So just take a few more deep, slow breaths like that. It's like sending metta to your own body and mind. Just with the idea that may I be well, peaceful and wise, free from greed, hatred, fear, and ignorance, free from self-created sufferings of body and mind due to unskillful thought, speech, and actions. May I have the patience, strength, mindfulness, and wisdom to meet and overcome all difficulties in life. May I be able to continue to deepen my understanding of the Dhamma and the practice of meditation to help free the mind from confusion and suffering. May I be well, peaceful, and wise. And continuing this on each out breath, send these thoughts out further afield to your family members, friends back home, people that you work with, see each day, strangers on the street. And with each out-breath, imagining these metta vibrations going outward through cities and countryside and across the whole country and eventually the whole earth. So with each out-breath, just imagine, try to feel these waves of pleasant sensation due to the breathing, being like the metta. Just with the idea that may all living beings be well, peaceful, and wise, free from greed, hatred, fear, and ignorance, free from pains and sufferings of body and mind. May all beings have the patience, strength, mindfulness, and wisdom to meet and overcome all difficulties in life. May all beings be able to live peacefully and harmoniously together, understanding the ultimate interconnectedness and interdependence of all things. May all beings be well, peaceful, and wise. May all beings be well, peaceful, and wise. May all beings be well, peaceful, and wise. Now to finish this meditation, I invite you to chant the word sadhu 3 times slowly. You can do the chanting on a long out breath, so take a deep breath. Sadhu. And place the hands at the edge of the knees. Take one more deep breath. Stretch your head back. Pull the hands against the knees. Arch the lower spine. And lift the head up on an in-breath. On the out-breath, press the chin to the top of the chest. Stretch the neck vertebra. And lift the chin up level on an in-breath. Relax on the out-breath. Put a smile on your face. Okay, friends. So this brings our Wednesday evening sutta study and meditation to an end. So I hope you're able to have a few moments of some peaceful mind or some insights. And don't forget, mindfulness a day keeps dukkha away. Sutta a day keeps delusions away. And Namo Buddhaya.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you,
You're all
Bhante. Sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu.
practice this week.
Thank you,
See you
Bhante.
again you on Sunday or next Wednesday. Be well, be safe, be mindful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Namo Buddhaya.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.